Don't be fooled by ads. Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. I get it. I really do. Ads are frustrating and annoying, but they're a necessary evil. To be completely honest, Ask Leo, both the website and the YouTube channel, simply would not exist were it not for advertising. That doesn't mean that I approve all the ads. I don't, and I'll explain why in a minute. But it does mean that it is very important you understand that ads exist and know what to look out for to understand what it is you're seeing. I'm going to use an example site here, the site being the homepage for the image burn CD, DVD burning utility. It is a useful utility, and I want to be clear that I'm not picking on them. They're just a great example of the kinds of things you really need to look for as you are watching and walking the web. For example, one of the things that advertisers like to do is to make their ads look like download buttons. This is so frustrating. Image burn is actually an easy one. I know where to look for their download, but there have been places where I've gone to download software and the page is covered with download buttons. The one that you actually want isn't clear at all. And yet it's important that you realize that that's what's happening. In the case of image burn, the download button is up there in the upper left on its menu bar. The other two things that say download, if you read them very, very carefully, you'll see that they're not downloading image burn at all. Interestingly enough, the ads have been customized for appearing on the image burn site. They actually include the phrase image burn download or image burn free download in the ad for something that is not image burn. It would be very easy to make a mistake and not realize that these are advertisements, not the actual image burn download. Now, the natural reaction, of course, when you are looking at a site like this or talking about a site that has advertising is great. I mean, if these ads are showing up on your site, can't you just block the advertisers? The answer is both yes and a very resounding no. First of all, you do have to understand that sites like Image Burn and Ask Leo and others, we're not vetting every individual advertiser. We don't have the resources. We don't have the bandwidth. There are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of different advertisers that can appear on our sites. If I were to try and vet every single one of them, I wouldn't have any time left over to actually answer your questions or to make these videos. The fact is, we end up relying on the advertising networks to at least do a first cull on making sure that the advertisers are to some level legitimate. That being said, legitimacy and misleading tactics aren't necessarily the same thing. They certainly feel like they should be, but they aren't necessarily the same thing. Now, I have in fact blocked certain advertisers from displaying on Ask Leo. There are some that offer, I'll just call it a competing service, where they offer to just answer a question for you. But the problem, of course, is that A, they make it seem like it's very easy. They make it seem like it's free until you actually want the answer, at which point they end up charging you. And a lot of people think that it's me, which of course it is not. It has nothing to do with me. And once again, I have not vetted those advertisers. In that case, because it's a single company, a single advertiser, I was able to go to my advertising network and say, hey, make that go away. The problem, of course, is that it's a game of whack-a-mole, because for every advertisers we might block, another one pops up, another one fills the space, and another one may or may not be as misleading. Especially with things like download buttons, you gotta pay attention. You gotta be very, very careful about what it is you're about to click on. In the case of image burn, you might think you're downloading image burn. In fact, you're downloading perhaps some other utility that you don't really want, and you might not even realize until after you've run the setup utility that you just downloaded. All of a sudden, yeah, this thing you don't want is installed, and it's not anywhere close to what you were expecting. So what are the things to look for? How do you make sure that you're not clicking on misleading stuff? Well, the good news for the image burn case, and actually in most of my cases, is that there is usually the word advertisement or these two ad choices and stop seeing ad icons visible on the ad itself. That's a clue. That just tells you that's an ad. Now, the stop seeing this ad icon is kind of, I'll call it a false hope, because it doesn't mean you're going to stop seeing ads. It just means you're going to stop seeing ads from that specific advertiser. And yes, if it's misleading, absolutely use that. Tell the advertising network that it's a misleading ad, but don't think it's going to stop advertising. It just isn't. Look for the word sponsored. Sponsored is an interesting phrase because you'll see it in various places on various sites, usually associated with content that looks like normal content on the site, but turns out to be essentially a paid placement from some advertiser in the form of an article or in the form of normal content. It's often referred to as advertorials or the similar kinds of terms. Basically, it's an ad that looks like an article. For the record, I don't do that. You'll never see sponsored content on askleo.com. And if you ever do, if I ever change my mind, I've got some ideas on how I might sequester it off into a different corner. But if I ever change my mind, it'll be super clear that it is sponsored content. But understand exactly what sponsored content is. Even when this content doesn't say sponsored, if it appears to be really pushing a specific solution, a specific product, a specific thing, then at least that should get your suspicion up. In most cases where I actually have recommendations, I clearly try to position things as my opinion. And you can act on my opinion or not. But it is not a case where I'm going to push a particular solution that in a way that, I say that you must use this, or you're stupid if you're not using this, or any of those kinds of things. That's not my approach. But there are places out there that will make everything look wonderful for a specific solution without displaying any alternatives. I won't call it a red flag, but it's at least a yellow flag that you ought to be considering the source and understanding whether or not that can be or that might be some form of sponsored content or advertisement. Now, I think we all know that ad placement can be a sign, right? The ad bars across the top, anything that essentially interrupts the flow of the content that you're reading could be an advertisement of some sort. Ads often look different than the overall design. Every site, including Askleo, has kind of a design aesthetic to it. It has a way that it looks and feels. Ads will often look different in various ways, either intentionally to basically draw attention to themselves, or unintentionally because what they'd really rather do is blend in and make it look like they're the site, like those download buttons. But in reality, the differences in appearance are another good sign of the fact that maybe what you're looking at is really an ad. I have to reiterate, be absolutely aware of download buttons. This is very unique to the tech space. It's very frustrating, but it's very unique to basically any site that talks about technology, especially if that site itself offers downloads of some sort. Advertisers will often cotton onto that and start plastering or start submitting ads with download buttons or things that look like download buttons in an attempt to mislead you. Beware the download button. And finally, the thing to know, of course, is that if you actually do end up clicking on one of these links that is an ad or something like it, you're going to go to a different URL. You're going to go to a different website, or you're going to download something from a place that is not the source, that is not the web page you're looking at. Check the URL. Make sure it's downloading from or going to wherever you really, really think it is. Now, if you're running an ad blocker, you may think this doesn't apply to you. It still does. An ad blocker will reduce the number of ads that you'll see on a page. But very much like the race between malware authors and anti-malware tools, ad blockers and advertisers are in that same kind of race. Advertisers are always trying to come up with ways to sneak past ad blockers. So you may still see ads on the sites even if you're running an ad blocker. Now, I have to say that for years, I was dead set against using ad blockers. Because, like I said, sites like Askleo would not exist without advertising. Ad blockers basically was taking that ability away from us. I'm at least sympathetic to the cause right now, and in fact, I do run one myself most of the time, and that's because advertisers have worked so hard to abuse the advertising system that it really has negatively impacted the advertiser or the experience of many, many websites. I get it. I totally get it. But, like I said, ads are what support us all. I do have other revenue sources. You could check them out in my store. I can sell you products. I've got patronage. There's ways to support Askleo, but none of them cover the cost, or even in aggregate, none of them cover the cost that is actually being covered by the advertising revenue that sites like Askleo are still getting. So none of the rules that I've mentioned about what is and isn't an ad is absolute. Many times download buttons are download buttons. Many times ads are not ads. They're actual content on the site. The important takeaway here is not to assume. Make sure you're always vigilant. Make sure you understand what is and is not an advertisement, either on the website you're visiting, the video you're watching, any of that kind of stuff. It's critical. Advertising supports us, but I don't want advertising to hurt you. And that means you need to stay vigilant. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/155254. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.